We have the roll call. No declarations, no presentations, none of that stuff. Could I get a mover and seconder for everything before us today? Andy and Greg, thank you. So we have, let's see. Does anybody care about the minutes? Let's go ahead and vote on those then. Those in favor? That carries, thank you. So the item that's before us, the staff report on the Irony Committee. Speakers? Right.
Yeah, I'd like to move an amendment that the SPAC committee be disbanded.
Seconder?
I'll second it, get it on the floor.
Thank you. Discussion?
Yeah, the one meeting I was acting with an individual had a real lack of kind of something he probably could have declared a conflict on. And another member spoke to something that she obviously had no understanding of. Suggesting that we should be looking at LRTs in Brantford now. Where exactly we put an LRT in Brantford, I have no idea. Your chance isn't busy enough for that, so.
Okay. Mandy?
So just discussion at this point, I'd like to know if those reasons are why we'd want to disband the committee, or if there would be a way to adjust the members or have to do something with the membership versus just disbanding it entirely. I wasn't there, I don't know, so I'm just asking the question.
So when Councillor Martin has another speaking opportunity. he
Yeah,
can
somebody
respond.
can answer me.
It is oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, let me.
Now I know why he doesn't
do a
recognize
soliloquy.
me in the council chamber, because it's hard to see to your right.
Very hard. Might finally speak, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, I've always wondered about this committee. Certainly the last council, this was something that Councillor Antosky had a particular interest in. She really drove it to accomplish a number of different objectives. Probably the most significant of which was the declaration of climate, emergency declaration, climate emergency. And as a result of that, that became a catalyst and for staff, direction to staff to undertake various initiatives to achieve that objective. And we continue to see the impact of that in how staff reports to us and various objectives and priorities. And so I've always wondered, at least the last year or two, is it necessary for this advisory committee to continue, given that we've incorporated into the essence of our being here, so to speak, a climate change priority policy. So I wondered then, what has the committee accomplished? Have there been any specific accomplishments in the last 12 months, 30 months? What's been accomplished? So that's my question.
That's a rhetorical question.
It's actually a real question.
Does anyone have an answer?
So we don't have the clerk of SPAC here or any staff from the Environmental Sustainability Policy Committee, but I do think that they've been bringing reports to this committee seeking feedback prior to going to council. I'm not sure. I know that they do the Green ER Awards, but I'm not sure of big projects. So we can definitely circle back with that information.
Right, because we do have a climate change officer, right? Who certainly is very active and very proactive. So I'm really wondering then if the staff time is taken up with this committee, is worth that investment of staff time and also citizen time.
So I can say the majority of the reports that go to SPAC are to be received for information.
Right. And if I look at the city operations, to make the city operations climate friendly, it's essentially electrifying the fleet and how we heat our buildings. We already have that. We're doing that. So we have a timeline for our fleet. Certainly on heating buildings, we're working towards, over the course of time, converting fossil fuel heating apparatus to that of heating pumps. We're looking at solar panels on the police station. I'm not sure what more we accomplish through this committee. So, and that would be a rhetorical
See any other- Oh, Councillor Sullivan, you're up. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say too, we also have recently changed from monthly meetings to bi-monthly meetings or like every 2 months because there's not enough material to warrant having a meeting every month.
Thank you for that. And having seen the agenda of this committee for the past 12 years, sorry, 12 months, it seemed like 12 years. I have to concur that I don't see a lot of value in what they're doing. As clerk staff said, it's simply a sounding board for staff initiatives which pass through to council universally supported without any real meaningful input. So I tend to agree with the mayor and with Councillor Martin that, you know, in terms of adding value to the corporation, I don't believe that this committee does, and it's, you know, every committee we have drains a little more energy out of our clerk staff, right? And the staff that we have actually doing the climate work seems competent and seems to be on the right track, as the mayor said. Let me look around and see if there are any first-time speakers first. Go ahead, please.
So the only reason not to do this, I think, the only substantive reason is the message it might send, which is that this organization is less than committed to environmental and sustainable policies. So if council approves this, we certainly have to consider how it is, how we message the decision. And it should certainly not be taken as an indication of a lack of resolve to be an environmentally conscious organization or anything. I think of anything, we're the exact opposite, but that would be my concern.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt.
Concern.
Councillor Hunt, you have the floor.
Thank you. And through you to staff, is there an opportunity to merge the mandate of this committee with another existing committee? So that we're not, as the mayor has said, we're not giving the impression that environmental sustainability is no longer of importance to council, but
Councillor Hunt, perhaps there's an opportunity to convert this to a shorter term effort to look after the green awards. That might be something that we would constitute. That would only necessitate once a year, perhaps.
yeah, sure. That's kind of what I'm thinking in terms of, so it's maybe versus a committee that, as Councillor Sullivan has indicated, is now only meeting every other month. It's more of a task-based committee to, as you said, so whether it's green awards or, as I said, unless staff feels that there's an opportunity to merge the mandate and work of that committee in with another committee from a policy perspective.
Yes, thank you. Yep.
Even the Green ER awards, there really isn't a big response to that. Sometimes there's only one response per category, or none, or at most two. So I'm not sure that's something that we want to continue anyway. I think that should be folded along with the SBAC committee.
So may I suggest that perhaps the resolution to disband be amended to acknowledge that the mandate largely has been met, and to thank the committee for its work, and to speak to the fact that municipal staff don't require that sort of input.
Yeah.
Councillor Hunt, you're up again.
No, I'm sorry, I'm not, because I'm on my phone trying to do this. It says
Oh.
raised hand, but lowering hand is not an option, so I don't know.
Yes, that's friendly. Yeah. Linda, if you want to speak, just yell out then, okay? If your hand is stuck, okay? Sorry, Amanda.
So I was just gonna ask, has it got a full complement of citizens currently on that committee. And I also wondered about the idea of at the call of the chair versus an ongoing committee, or if that still creates a lot of work.
It's one that has trouble meeting quorum, even though it has a full complement, I believe.
Through the chair, we try to avoid at the call the chair for meetings, just because it does still add to staff workload. We still have this committee that we're in charge of. We have resources allocated to that, and not having a consistent meeting kind of adds further pressures.
Okay, thank you.
Could we view the amendment before us?
Just to make sure. I can see it. Oh, sorry. My apologies. Sorry.
I think you added the amendment to the minutes resolution. Looks like it.
I'll just read it out.
They also have a $5,000 budget that they usually don't know what to do with.
Yeah, so the amendment would be through the chair. The amendment would be that the SPAC committee be disbanded and the committee be thanked for their service.
Is that good for the mover and the second? Okay. I don't see any more discussion. Shall we go to the question on the amendment? Show of hands.
Show of hands for this one.
Okay, those in favor? That carries. Yes, Mayor.
Before I make a further amendment, I would like to acknowledge the hard work of yourself and the Vice Chair, Councillor Sullivan, and also staff. I know that a lot of work has gone into preparatory work into this final report. I think you've done an excellent job and it's much appreciated.
Thank you.
But I think there's still more work to be done. And in particular, I am going to put forward a amendment that we disband the Southwest Task Force and the Vision Zero Road Safety Committee.
We do those one at a time.
Let's do one at a time. Take the Southwest Task Force first. So,
Let me ask for a seconder. See, we have Councillor Martin. Go ahead.
Right.
Mayor.
so this was a task force that was set up. I believe it was former Councillor Rick Weaver who did that. And he did that because he perceived that developing the Southwest recreational complex was sort of in the doldrums and nothing much was being done. And he saw the need to have a task force to move it forward and also obtain input from the residents of West Grant, what they wanted in the Southwest recreational center. That's all been done. Stages 1 and 2 are more or less on the way to completion. We're left with stage 3, which is essentially the baseball diamonds, complicated because of an extensive archaeological consult that had to go to stage 4 and certain indigenous activity making that even more difficult to achieve. And so my thinking is that this committee has not met, I believe, in the last 2 years. And whatever is left to be done on stage 3, certainly the ward councillors working with the neighborhood association, surely they could handle that. We wouldn't need to have a task force to finish the task. And I think to leave this in place, as you've said previously, Chair, it takes up staff time that probably is spent doing something else.
Thank you, Mayor. Discussion.
Actually, I was on a version of that committee before we was even on council. It was struck by Kings and Quatchaki when they were the Ward 1 councillors. And there was a meeting called the one day and I was the only one who showed up. So. Ward 1 councillors weren't concerned about why we even have the committee at that point, but I agree completely that it's run its course. It's achieved what it wanted to do, and I think it's time to wrap it up.
Councillor Sullivan, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I've heard a bit of that. They hadn't met since 2022. We met this week, actually. And there was very little information given. The meeting was done in less than 20 minutes, and I'd probably say half of that was introductions for everybody in the actual meeting. So at the end of the meeting, we didn't have a next meeting because it's all based on when there's more information. And I think it's a little bit redundant.
Thank you. I'll chime in and say that when we did the interview with the committee chair, they weren't certain of what the mandate was. They weren't certain of when they would meet, and they couldn't recall when the prior meeting may have been. So clearly it's nothing, there's nothing there that seems topical or providing a benefit to the corporation. So we have that on the floor. Any further discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and vote on that. Those in favor? That carries as well. Next, please.
Prelude to the next amendment. It's interesting that the report that we have in front of us tells us that in comparison to other municipalities, we do have quite a number of committees and more than the average for municipalities of our size. So this is an attempt to bring us in line with, I think, standard practice in other municipalities. But anyways, the amendment is that we disband the Vision Zero Road Safety Committee. And I think I've got it right in the history on this one. I think that was Councillor Rick Weaver, former Councillor Rick Weaver, and he did it because there really wasn't any significant traffic calming being done across the city. And there were some fatalities, a number of pedestrian injuries. There was really nothing being done to work towards the red light camera system, the remote control speed camera system. I think those have all been accomplished. We now have traffic calming occurring throughout the community under the aegis of ward councillors, bringing in staff to do where they see there to be a traffic problem, they bring in staff, they have the neighborhood meeting, and I think we've seen a lot of success with staff doing that with the assistance of ward councillors. And so this committee, I think, has run its course. It's accomplished the tasks that were set out for it. I don't believe there have been any fatalities. I think I'm correct in the last 12 months, certainly. So I think that, and I found that it does meet regularly, but I'm finding most of the meetings, they don't really seem to have any value. It's the ward councillors have already taken care of the issue. It's whatever the committee deals with can probably best be dealt with the committee of the whole, isn't it?
Were you going to move that, Mayor?
Yeah, that any issues that would otherwise go to Vision Zero, that those would go directly to committee of the whole, isn't it?
So that's moved to disband Vision Zero and a seconder. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Sless, I have you up next.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I chair the Vision Zero committee, and I believe when we chatted about this, Mr. Chairman, I thought it had value and that perhaps it should stay. But upon reflection, it's probably very similar to the Human Resource Committee, which we have disbanded. It's just another set of eyes looking at a staff recommendation before it goes to council, and that's really the purpose that it serves. And I don't know if it's necessarily needed. I think, as the mayor has said, the ward councillors work directly with staff when it's a ward issue, and they're working with traffic calming, and that was kind of the impetus of how this got created in the first place. So, as the chair, I'm quite comfortable. If it's the will of the committee, I'll certainly support the disbandment.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? Councillor Hunt? Okay. Then we'll go to the vote. Those in favor? And that carries. Did you want to come in?
He was checking on Mayor Davis's e-scribe. I told him to come back another time.
Do you have any more?
My work is done.
Okay, thank you very much. Further discussion and comment, folks? A couple of questions from the chair. Now, is it understood that as part of the staff duties to report back, that we are going to look at simplifying and abbreviating the onboarding process for our community volunteers?
Through the chair, that will be part of our review of our appointments policy. So yes, yeah.
And my other question or comment would be that success of our advertisement for applicants for the Municipal Service Corporation is a watershed event in terms of the number of people who have applied for a single position. Are we going to be thinking of doing fewer appointments more often, perhaps? With that one, we had a choice of 2 committees. Whereas with some of them, we have a choice of 20 committees, and we end up getting people who just want to serve, but might not have any interest whatsoever in the subject matter for which they were eventually appointed.
Yeah, so through the chair right now, they're 4-year terms of council, and each applications for 2 years. And so we have them staggered so that we don't have one whole committee leaving all at the same time, just for business continuity and knowledge and experience. So it'd be difficult to not have them all come at the same time, but perhaps when we're looking at the appointments policy, we could maybe provide some recommendations on the preferred choice or something along that line, maybe limiting their options to 1 or 2, or so we could definitely take a look at that.
I think that has
That's very
merit,
fair. Yeah.
if we could do that. And that was my only other comment, Mayor.
My work isn't done. I just realized. So I have 2 comments to make on the amended report. First one has to do with an experience we had today with the Municipal Accommodation Task Force, and we're interviewing, I think it's almost
12 of the 31. Yes.
12 of the 31, and we interviewed several people today, the first round of interviews. And I must say, I found it very helpful that meeting a prospective appointee, even if it's only for 15, 20 minutes, you get a better sense of the person, what it is they want to accomplish, why they've applied. It really fleshes out the written information that they provide. And I'm wondering, I realize we have a lot of appointments, doing it once or twice a year. Hoping maybe in the future we can somehow incorporate into the process a short interview process with candidates, maybe with some very important committees. I just throw that out there. I found it very useful today in this process for the Accommodation Task Force. The other comment I have has to do with the Finance Committee. And, the Finance Committee served a very important role when we had Planning Committee one Tuesday each month. And that meant that our Tuesday evening meetings generally would go to 9 or 10 almost every week. And so part of the reason for having Finance Committee was to be able to deal with those finance issues, albeit only half the council, but there'd be more time to deal with it. Now I'm finding that we're generally ending our CAL meetings, 7:30, 8:30. We rarely go beyond 9 o'clock. Wondering if there might be some benefit to having finance and the issues that go to finance instead going to committee of the whole. So the entire council can hear whatever the financial issues are. And there's a lot of regular reporting on important parameters for the corporation. Just thinking there may be more value in doing that. I realized that this year there is one important task the Finance Committee has, and that is staff are looking at each of our program areas and determining how we may be able to deliver services more efficiently in a different manner. And that's probably best reviewed by the Finance Committee. Long and short is I'm thinking maybe there's a need to reconstitute the terms of reference for the Finance Committee. So those are just 2 general comments I have.
Thank you. Further discussion.
You want to go to staff, have any comment on that?
I could speak to the first one. So in our appointments policy, there is a mechanism that the appointments committee can form a subcommittee to conduct interviews for whichever board or committee that they wish to have interviews. And we've done that in the past. We've actually suggest doing that for these types of committees, because when you create a subcommittee, it's not a meeting that consists of quorum, and it doesn't usually need that much support from staff, and we don't have to call meetings to have those interviews. So I think we've done it for the Police Services Board, perhaps for Committee of Adjustment in the past. So that's
Committee of
definitely
adjustment, maybe property standards in the past.
perhaps.
Yeah.
So a bit for those that are a bit more high profile. So that's definitely always an option for future.
Yeah, especially that if we do combine the property standards, control of vicious dog, you know, the trespass order appeal, we combine that into a sort of our statutory appeal committee. Certainly that's one I think we'd want to do interviews.
I agree.
Further discussion?
Just that I like the idea of the interviews for the people that we're appointing as well.
It would require considerable work on
It's a lot of work.
on behalf of the mayor and whoever's on the subcommittee with him.
Right, I can see doing interviews for some committees, important committees, but if there's some that they don't want us to interview everybody that's putting in for this part.
So through the chair, did the mayor want to formally amend that finance committee be included in the list of committees that we're reviewing the mandates for?
It's not on the floor currently.
Put that on the floor.
Oh, the mandate, sorry, yeah.
The mandate.
Yeah, that's a good. Seconder? Mandy, thank you. Did you want to speak any further?
No, I don't want to speak.
Further comment on that guy? Linda? Counselor Hunt, rather?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I feel like we go to the finance committee and 2 weeks later, what comes to the finance committee comes through committee of the whole anyway. I'm wondering if even looking at the requirement for the finance committee to meet monthly, perhaps a quarterly meeting. You know, if we're looking at the mandate, I would also suggest we look at the number of meetings required based on the information that's coming through finance.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'll just say that this is, I guess this is a high workload year for the finance committee to review some of the program reviews, which we don't want to be doing at council, involving 11 people who, some of whom may not have an interest in doing that. I think our mandate, a history lesson. Originally, when Councillor Martin and I brought forward the resolution to reintroduce the finance committee, which had been absent many years, the plan was to have that committee play an active role in terms of looking at things like program review. And over the years, it has turned into simply a subcommittee which examines committee staff reports, which then end up on the council plate. And the only advantage to doing that is that board mates have a split of work between that committee and social services. So I think the mayor's amendment is quite appropriate to have a look at what that can beyond this year when we're doing that volume of work, to see if there's value in the finance committee having a different mandate, or perhaps when that work is done, we may consider a less frequent or disbandment. Thank you. So mandates on the floor, right? Seconded, right? So let's vote on that, folks. Those in favor? Reviewing the mandate. Okay, good. Anything else? You sure? Because you said that before. I know, I'm sure. Okay. Anything else, folks? You folks online, all good? Okay, so we've got before us then the resolution is amended. Committee.
Is there a possibility of separating that in a way that I could vote in the negative for the items that I voted against? You're gonna do as amended now, right?
As amended, yes.
Yeah, so it needs to be separated.
You want those questions separated again?
Yeah.
Okay. Could you tell us, we didn't
Yeah.
record the vote, so
No,
you have to tell us which they were.
So the amendment number 2, which is SPAC, and amendment number 4 on my screen here, which is the Vision Zero.
Could it suffice just to minute it that Councillor Samwell voted in the negative on those two, or do you want to do separate votes? What's your feeling, folks?
However it works out.
Yes, just so
it's fine
she's,
for me.
yeah,
Through the chair, unless it's requested, we don't do recorded votes.
Yeah.
So if Councillor Samuel would
Okay.
like to vote in a negative, it'd have to be recorded.
let's do that. So,
Recorded votes?
so for the two that you want to be recorded as opposing.
Right.
Do them together.
Yes, please.
Do those two together? Okay.
Okay.
So
Do you want to call the vote on those two then?
I do.
Yep.
Yes, on those two, those in favor.
Sorry, just, so this is or the environmental and the Southwest Task Force, those two?
And the visions, sorry, it was
It was,
Mandy.
it was SPAC and Vision Zero.
Okay, so those are the two that we're voting.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's this vote. So those in favor of deep sixing those. Thank you. And those opposed? One, thank you. Okay. And then on the balance of the report as amended, other than those two items, those in favor? And that carries. Okay. We are done. Thanks very much, folks. This goes to council.
It'll go to CalPA.
CalPA. Yeah, excellent. Yeah. And to echo what the mayor said earlier, clerk staff were stalwart in supporting this. Doing not only the interviews with me and with Sullivan, but also the ones you did with staff.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good work.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.